Sometimes it helps to take a step back and look at things as a whole. Seen from above, you may discover new ways of approaching problems. This is what helped me to make several breakthroughs recently, and so here's the story of that. The first breakthrough happened right here in the galley, where I finally decided to install some AC sockets. I'm going to install them in this wall, where there's some space behind to pass the cables through. First I need to find the right position, then make some marks for where to drill, and then drill a hole for each of the 3 sockets. Now let's see if they fit. And then we move on to installing another single socket. This one will be placed right here, a little bit higher up. Now that the holes are drilled, I can move on to connecting the wires. For this I need to open up the compartment underneath our Victron Quattro. I simply connected the breaker in parallel on the AC inside, and then I can put this back in place. Next I need to feed the AC cable through the engine room, then underneath the floor of the head, and finally back up into the galley. And I want to point out that you're actually not supposed to run your AC wires together with your DC wires, as the AC wire should always be encased separately from the DC wires. Now, to connect the wires to the sockets, I need to use single strand wires, which are also not approved for marine application. So I'm using this little safety box where the single strand and the multi-strand wires can connect. Now all that's left to do is to put everything together. And with that, we have proper AC sockets in our galley. And so now we can finally equip our galley with the necessary devices to make life on a boat even more enjoyable. For my next breakthrough, I have to remove some floorboards in the helm of our boat to uncover our big diesel engine. Here I want to start working on those rotten engine mounts, some of which don't even secure the engine properly anymore. For this job I'm gonna need 2 big wooden beams, with which I built some kind of a gallows above the engine. I'm also gonna need this mechanical pulley to lift up the engine. So here we go. First I install the pulley in the right position. Next I hook up the engine to it. And I'm using this 30mm steel rod to secure the pulley on top of the gallows. Next I undo the bolts on the engine mounts. And then it's time to lift up the engine. Now I'm gonna lift it up just a little bit, basically just to secure it in place. I'm gonna start here at the rear, where after making sure the engine foot is not resting on the engine mount anymore, I'm actually gonna remove the entire engine foot to avoid having to raise the engine any further. Now I can simply unscrew the bolts that hold the engine mount in place, and I discover to my surprise that there is a big hole which allows part of the engine mount to hang through. I think you'll agree with me that these engine mounts have reached the end of their life a long time ago. Lucky for me, I found that the exact same model is still being produced today and the manufacturer is actually based in Germany. And so I've ordered a set right away, and hopefully in our next video I can show you how I put them in. Now for my third breakthrough, which was probably the biggest of them all, we're gonna stay in the engine room, and I have to warn you, it's gonna get messy. I'm continuing the work on our built-in diesel tank. Here everything is still the same way as I last left it, so I'll start by first cleaning out this leftover diesel and water mixture. Here you can see just how much diesel sludge has accumulated over the years. I then rub and scrub the inside of the tank with a simple brush and dishwasher detergent. I then use my shop vac to remove the muddy water that collected at the bottom, and then repeat the process a few times. To finish up, I wipe everything down with paper towels and acetone, and I use a drill with a brush to clean the corners. Now let's leave the inside of the tank for a moment and turn our attention to these pipes sticking out of the side here. First I unscrew the one here at the top, and I plug the hole with a threaded plug, and then I cut off this little troublemaker here at the bottom. Of course, this leaves me with this hole on the inside of the tank, which I first planned to cover with a leftover piece of steel. But then, when I cleaned it, I noticed that it's actually threaded, so I hope that I can simply use a threaded plug to close it. I got this tap, or spigot, to get the diesel out and back into the tank. I found this little screw here, which after I remove it, gives me my pilot hole for the hole saw drill. Now the tube on the tap wasn't quite long enough, so I had to extend it with a stainless steel tube, and I used this JB Weld resin, which can resist diesel and even gasoline. I connected both tubes with this here structure, then simply covered it up with the resin, and it turned out to be quite strong. Next, I need to cut a hole for our Philippi TDN tank sensor. This is the base to suspend the sensor from. I will place it here at this corner. Next, I cleaned up the border of the opening of the tank. Alright, now the tank is completely cleaned. I removed any traces of rust, diesel or other contaminants. And so next I'm gonna apply some rust converter. After I let this cure for a day, I found the tank like this. The white stuff is actually a phosphate coating, which helps to protect against corrosion. I then washed it out once more with a clean cloth and distilled water, which does of course remove some of the phosphate coating. I then dried it out with my diesel heater. And so once the tank was completely dry and a little warm to the touch, I applied the first of several coats of this 2-component tank sealant. And now, feast your eyes on my freshly sealed diesel tank. I need to wait at least 8 days before filling the tank, which is not a problem because there's a bunch of other things I still need to do, such as laying the fuel line and closing the lid back up. So I'm afraid for this video, that's all I got for you.